Welcome to Healing America with Dr. Jim White. Jim has been investing, coaching executives, and turning around companies for over 30 years. Now your host, Dr. Jim White.
Good evening. This is Jim White, and welcome to another edition of Healing America. We have a treat for you today. We have Susie Brusa, and she is the CEO of Rancho, Cielo. And for you that tune in on a regular basis, you know how much I support nonprofits and impact investing, and we just could not be more excited to have Susie with us today. Like I said, Susie is the CEO of Rancho Cielo, and it's a 100-acre campus in Salinas. And I didn't realize it was that big, quite frankly. And they provide educational and vocational training and the word enrichment. I love the word. When I saw the bio, the word enrichment for underserved and at-risk youth in Monterey County. Rancho Cielo's vision is to transform the lives of at-risk youth and empower them to become accountable, competent, productive, and responsible citizens. Now, can you get any better mission to that? Lives of at-risk youth, empower them to become accountable, competent, and productive and responsible citizens. Susie has a tremendous background in the private sector as well. She was as in sales and VP in agriculture and telecommunication companies. She is also a certified professional coach and ran her own consulting business, which took her around the world, into Europe and to Asia. And Susie holds a BA from Pomona College in Claremont and attended the Harvard Business School for Education program for a nonprofit management. And she is also the past president of the Junior League in Monterey County, which is a very powerful organization. And she also serves on other community boards. And Susie, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
My pleasure. I've been looking forward to this, and thank you for your patience. We had to change a couple of times, so I really glad to have you. Let's start off. Rancho Cielo. How did it get started?
So Judge John Phillips, now retired from the bench, but when he was sitting on the bench, he was putting these young men behind bars for longer and longer mandatory sentencing, and feeling like he was, first of all, he was locking up our future workforce. But he came to understand that these young kids didn't have the same advantages that his own kids had had, and that there was somehow an uneven playing field. And he knew of this property that used to be a boys' ranch detention facility, and he could envision repurposing it into a center where young people could get a diploma and real job skills so they could break that gang membership cycle that they're in. And so in the year 2000, he founded the nonprofit, and he engaged the business community to be on his board of directors. He feels strongly that government can't solve every problem. That to a certain degree, the community needs to step in and help fix the problems that they're responsible for, in effect. And 15 years after the first graduating class and 500 diplomas later, we now have about 150 students a day across 6 programs, including a housing program, a youth corps employment program, and probation high school, and 3 vocational academies where young people get their high school diploma all the way up to age 25. We partner with John Muir Charter School in those academies up to age 25. Full WASC accredited diploma, not just a GED. We do that because employers tell us that makes the young person more competitive for the jobs. And then we have vocational training from industry professionals, working through national recognized curriculum, ending in some kind of a certification that makes the young person more competitive. Those topics relate to the industries that are large in Monterey County, where there are a lot of jobs. So Hospitality, we have a culinary academy with a certified executive chef and a commercial kitchen. We're open to the public. We have a construction academy with a licensed general contractor who's on our staff, and they're building tiny homes as part of a homeless solutions coalition. And of course, we have an ag mechanics and engine repair academy. Lots of jobs. These are living wage jobs. And there's a gap in candidates locally. We've all but gotten away from vocational training in the high schools for budget reasons, et cetera. And so we're hoping to fill that gap with young people who desperately need hope and income, and match them with employers who desperately need skilled, talented young people.
How does your student, let me phrase the question this way. What is the qualifications to be considered as a student at Rancho Cielo?
So it used to be that you had to be on probation, but that is no longer true. We do have one program that is exclusively for juveniles on probation, but the rest of the programs, being on probation or involved in the justice system, is no longer a requirement. So we recruit. I mean, we advertise in English and Spanish, in print media and on the radio. And we've now been around long enough that we get a lot of word of mouth, and sisters and cousins and nieces and nephews. And so that's fun.
What year did that change from the, actually, as I recall, early years, it was strictly probation, right?
It was.
And what year did that change?
Well, it's been kind of gradual for a variety of reasons. Jim, there's a lot of research now that demonstrates that having young people involved in the justice system is not helpful for the young person, for their rehabilitation. It does not rehabilitate. And so it's not good for the community either, breaks up families, et cetera. And that programs like these really are far more successful. And we've demonstrated that to be true. The young people who come out of our program, if they've been on probation, are half as likely to reoffend. I mean, literally, we get twice better results than incarceration alone for about 1/10 of the cost. But back to those studies, the voters of the state of California have spoken, and they have decriminalized a lot of activities, especially around minor drug use, that used to be felonies. And, we're aware of the disproportionate harshness of penalties and number of people of color who are locked up relative to the rest of the population, and how disproportionately, how unfair that has been over time. And I think the people of California have said, enough of that. We've got to find another solution to these kinds of social problems that are not really criminal issues.
Mm-hmm. The programs that you have, specifically in the ag sector, because Monterey County, Salinas Valley, ag, tourism, ag, and being CEO of some different firms in the Salinas Valley, in the ag industry, we're challenged daily for the workforce. So specifically, what programs are you guys running now to say that getting people ready to work in coolers or food processing?
So we, not too long ago, finished a $10 million capital campaign to build this new building that's now complete and has 1 year of service under our belts. The Ag Academy is called the Ted Taylor Ag Vocational Center. I don't know if you, in your history here, knew Ted Taylor. He was a visionary and an icon in agriculture in the Valley. And his widow, Joanne Taylor, and her family, his children, Bruce Taylor of Taylor Farms being one of them, who I think you are also familiar with.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you did. They gave the foundational gift for this center in order to train our young people for highly skilled, highly paid jobs in agriculture. And when that center is fully operational, it will almost double the number of students that we can serve on campus. So we're doing it, though, program by program, a little bit at a time. The first academy is the Ag Mechanics and Electrical Academy. And so Taylor Farms, Man Packing, Dole, all contributed parts of a salad factory line that then can be broken and reassembled, maintained. Of course, it's not proprietary technology. You know, no one is going to allow any people to work on their proprietary technology. But if we can train young people to be mechanical and really, Jim, expose them and see if they are interested in that, are they interested in working with their hands, and do they have that natural attention to detail that's required, and self-assess, kind of self-select in, then the companies that have proprietary technology, of course, can train them on that. So we're really doing some very basic mechanical and electrical training in that program. The next program that's opening is tractor repair, engine repair. Big need for skilled people in those jobs, living wage jobs. And then we have the construction academy is in that building. And then the fourth one that will open in 2022, it got delayed, of course, because of COVID, is called Ag Futures. And so that will be robotics and drones and water technology, soil sciences, those kinds of things.
You actually, I'm going to use the word read my mind, because I was going to ask about when that was coming, because that's a big one, especially with the technology, computers, PLCs, all the robotics, all the automation, because you're probably aware we are one of our companies. We're in the process of rebuilding the campus as well, which is going to have a lot of automation in it. And we're looking for people, because keep training them. We need them.
That's an exciting project that you're working on.
It is. It's a very, very exciting project, and we hope to make a tremendous impact and continue to do what little we can do to support Rancho Cielo. I think the vision of Rancho Cielo, the moment I heard about it, I really became aware of it. And it was through our mutual acquaintance and friend, Mike Costa, actually introduced me to Rancho Cielo, and I just fell in love with the mission. I think it's fantastic. And we were talking off air. I asked you a question: what got you involved in the nonprofit sector, and because you have a very successful business and a private sector business as well. So to the extent that you'd like to share, how did you make that transition? You're over here, you're a successful coach, and all of a sudden, I'm going to go in the nonprofit side.
Well, I love running organizations. I mean, I had some big sales jobs, statewide sales jobs, particularly in telecom, and 1,500 employees, 12 union local presidents with my cell phone number. I love that stuff. I love making morale an operational measurement and proving to people, who think that morale is fluffy, that in fact it is tied to productivity. I love that. And do you remember when Elizabeth Dole was the head of the Red Cross?
I do.
I looked at her and I thought, how do I get that job? Because, running a big organization, my husband always used to say, look, you are making an impact on the community because your employees are not going home at night and complaining around the dinner table about their work environment. I mean, you're making an impact. But I wanted to make a community-wide impact. And so I, at some point, looked around and said, what's available that I could do in my own community? And working with youth, especially gang affiliated youth, we had such a terrible juvenile violence problem in Salinas, and it's so topical for us. And I love this community. Oh my gosh, you mentioned Mike Costa. Most of these ag firms, I would like your listeners to know, most of these ag firms in Monterey County, the vast majority of them are still family owned. They are locally owned and run. These people are so generous because they've been here for 3 or 4 generations, and they intend to stay here for 3 or 4 generations, and they give. And people think about Monterey County, Jim, and they think about Pebble Beach and all those mansions and all those rich people. Oh, they must give so much. It's not that the people in Pebble Beach aren't generous, but they've retired there and they're still giving to the Boys and Girls Club in Cleveland.
Correct.
You know, they're not, I haven't converted most of them yet.
But you will.
They're on my list. They're on my list. I haven't gotten them yet. But the ag community here is just remarkably generous. And, you know, they understand that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah. And I agree with you. That's been my experience as well. They're very generous, and I want to be careful here, because if I start naming a lot of names, I will make a mistake and leave someone out, and I will hear about it immediately. So I don't want to make that mistake, but we've already laid out, I mean, what the Taylor family has done for Rancho, Cielo, and what the Costas, they go back to the 20s, and on the churches, and here I am getting myself in trouble already, and I just go on and on and on. And the reason I started thinking about those because your word generous, and they're all just such a generous group of people, and like you, I love the community. And actually, it was a question I was going to ask. Most people think of Monterey County as this, and they're thinking Pebble Beach and Carmel by the Sea, and I recall some time ago where the gang issue in Salinas was not a safe place at one time, and that's some of the things that Rancho Cielo, I think, is having a positive impact, because the people originally coming out of probation, coming into your program, and success out of that, success starts breeding success, and so they start understanding the different solutions. So my hat's off to you. I'm going to ask you this question. If you had 5 minutes with President-elect Joe Biden, what would you share as the highest priorities from your vantage point? 5 minutes.
Well, you know, he says he wants to unify. And I think messaging is critical. You know, we have to talk, when we talk about these issues, we have to talk about both the economic benefit to the community of appropriately funding education and workforce development programs. And we have to talk about the social benefits to historically excluded communities. Both are true. It's not either or, it's both. And so if we message that properly, it's something that appeals to the law and order folks. I mean, we've proven it at Rancho Cielo. 80% recidivism reduction and more taxes paid because people are employed. You know, breaking the cycle of violence, keeping families together. When we invest in young people, recidivism declines and the economy is better. And, you know, it's not a bleeding heart liberal thing. It's an economic issue. It's the most important economic issue we've got to fix. And, you know, we spend I'm going to get in trouble now.
No, I'm already in trouble, so join me.
Well, we spend as Americans, we spend a disproportionate amount of money on seniors. If you think about the healthcare system, and I'm not saying I want to let seniors die. That's not. Okay. I'm hoping that your listeners can understand more nuance than that. The fact is, we should be spending at least that much money on the future of our economy, and that's youth. We should be throwing money at schools and making them more effective. The U.S. should be leading the technology efforts around all kinds of green energy, ag tech, clean tech. We should be leading those efforts. The global economy demands them. And why are we not selling them?
I understand the reason you have the job you have now. I get, and I don't I don't think anybody, any of our viewers or listeners would object to that, and I don't think the senior citizens, when they look at it, would object to that. Senior citizens that I know said we've got to invest in our future, and that is our kids. We got to make sure that they get especially in 2020. We have so many challenges as a result of COVID-19, especially in our schools and our and just across the board. So, in 2020, during COVID, if you could look back, and the year's almost over, what's been some of the greatest accomplishments that you've seen at Rancho Cielo during this time?
On a macro level, I suppose it's keeping the lights on and continuing to serve the community. But on a micro level, there are so many little stories that, you just can't make this stuff up. Young girls who are pregnant, unfortunately, but we keep them in school. They get their diploma. They got a job. They got some income. We had a young man who joined the Marines and went through boot camp. And when you go to Marine boot camp, they take your phone away for 6 or 8 weeks. And he called me right when he got his phone back to tell me he was graduating from boot camp. And you should have heard the joy in his voice. This young man, that's a huge accomplishment, It's so many of these little micro stories that each one of our young people have, that even those who don't reach the finish line with the diploma for maybe one reason or another, they've overcome some other kind of a barrier because they got mental health counseling here, or they went through one of our trauma-informed healing circles, and it shifted their view of themselves, or they got their driver's license. I mean, all of these things add up. And so I think those are the things that really bring joy.
I was just reflecting on that. I'm thinking back 50 years as you were talking, or longer, that special graduation day when you finished boot camp. I remember what that was like. And we didn't have cell phones. We had pay phones to be able to call that person to say, I made it, or I accomplished something. So I understand that. Also want to remind our viewers and our listeners that today is Giving Tuesday, right?
Yes.
It is Giving Tuesday.
It is. Yep.
So I am certain that Scott, the producer, has all sorts of things across the screen that says Rancho Cielo. So I just remind everybody, you cannot find a better place to send some money. So send some money. Look on the screen there.
Oh, thank you.
Look there. So Giving Tuesday. Go ahead, Susan.
Our individual donations have dropped year over year by 50%. And foundations have stepped up, though. I mean, I'm not saying that my revenue is down 50%, because I've had foundations step in. And yet philanthropy today says that giving is up, individual giving is up. And so I have to believe that people who are philanthropic are still being philanthropic during this time, as long as they haven't lost their job. But I think people here are either giving to COVID causes, like, the food bank, or locally here to fire relief funds, which were needed as well. I'm hoping at some point that those people pivot back to their favorite charity, Rancho Cielo. That's what I'm hoping.
I absolutely agree. And, California, the fires, it's just been devastating. But programs such as Rancho Cielo with the statistics that you have, I cannot help but think it should be a model. Rancho Cielo should be a model throughout the nation, and again to Judge John Phillips when I just sat on the bench and said, "There's got to be another way, or got to be a better way that we can do this versus throwing everybody behind bars and forgetting them." So that vision is just phenomenal, just phenomenal. I absolutely agree. So 2021, what we're still getting through this COVID issue, and we got a new administration coming on in January. What's some of the initiatives that you're looking at for Rancho Cielo in 2021?
So we have a new program to open, as I mentioned.
Right.
So that's exciting. That will bring new staff to the team, and it will bring new students, an additional group of students to campus. So that'll be exciting. Each one of our programs has a business advisory council that advises us on curriculum to be sure we're training to the right thing, to what the industry really needs. So they need to answer the question for us of what is it that this kid needs to have learned by the end of their time here that will make them competitive and stand out from that field of potential applicants. Every year, we get those councils together and try to improve our programs, make them stronger. And sometimes we make big changes to the programs, and sometimes we just make little tweaks. I mean, sometimes we do a wholesale curriculum change because we're not satisfied with the results. And I'm not afraid of failure, right? So if something didn't work, then we'll try something different. It's all about what are the results for those young people. So there's always those kinds of goals. And I think from a fiscal perspective, I really want to work on an endowment. We've got to build an endowment so that these services are available far into the future for this community.
Have you started working on the endowment, or is it something you're currently working on?
Something we're currently working on, right? Yeah, something we're currently working on.
I think that's fantastic. Other than asking the folks or suggesting to folks to get off their wallets and make sure that we continue to contribute to these programs, I cannot, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring up John D'Arrigo and all of his work that he's done at Natividad and that foundation. And as I was listening to you, just going back to all the great people in the community, we got John, we got the Taylors, and everyone else in the community that's there to continue to support. It's just a great community to be involved in. With the remaining time that we have, any calls to action for the audience? Like I said, we're live. This would be we'll go on podcast, so we have a pretty good coverage. Any calls to action?
Well, besides Giving Tuesday,
Giving Tuesday,
right? I think you've covered that one. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That I don't have to. I think that a healthy dose of humility and humanity would go a long way right now. And when you see someone who's different from you, maybe they're homeless, maybe they somehow make you feel afraid because they're different from you, greet them and look them in the eye, make them feel seen.
Yeah.
I wonder what their favorite vegetable is. I often think things like that. Something that makes them human, that connects you to them, something you have in common with them. And you don't have to say that to them verbally. If you look them right in the eye, they'll know you think that, and make them feel seen.
I used to say in a lot of speaking engagements I would do, it takes 14 muscles to smile and 78 to frown. So if you do the latter for a long period of time, you're not going to like the results, what it's going to do to your face. And I used to be on the street and just go up to a stranger, and the days that you could extend your hand and welcome and just smile and say, hello, how's your day? How you doing? And it's amazing when people can look at you, and especially the unfortunate that may be homeless, and just to extend a smile goes a long way for a lot of folks.
I bet you did do that.
Yeah, exactly. So you are an absolute pleasure. Thank you
Thank you.
for spending some time with us. And I have yet to make it to Rancho Cielo. I want to do that one day to see the facility, and you can count on our continued support. So we'll continue to support what you are doing, and thank you for what you're doing, Susie.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I was really honored to be asked. And I would offer you or any of your listeners a tour at Rancho Cielo anytime. I mean, I'm in the business of making raving fans, so I'm easily found.
And I can see why you would do that. And the website will be on the website. So, ladies and gentlemen, next week we'll be back at the same time. So until then, be safe, wear a mask, social distance, and take Susie's advice. Smile and extend your hand, and nothing else than smile and say, let's be friends. Good night.
Thank you for your participation and interest in Healing America with Dr. Jim White. To stay in touch with Jim, go to www.healingamerica.com.